Good evening, Pak Mateus. Good evening, friends. So today we are going to discuss about monitoring and assessment, Chapter 7 from Nation and Macalister book, Language Curriculum Design. As you can see from the model, the outer circle of the curriculum design model, environment, needs and principle provide data to guide the planning of the process in the inner circle. So the monitoring and assessment must take account of the environment in which the course will be used. The aims of this part of the curriculum design process is to decide what to test and how to test it. There are two goals of the monitoring and assessment. The first is informational goal. So it's look at the learner's present knowledge and progress, and the effective goals to encourage the involvement and the participation of the learners. You can see the monitoring and assessment guidelines. It's provided on your book. So it consists of environment analysis, needs analysis, and also the principle analysis that have been done, discussed in the previous meeting. So we are going to discuss about the types of monitoring and assessment. Our main discussions today. The first one is the placement assessment. Placement assessment is the learners are assessed at the beginning of a course to see what level of the course they should be in. The second is observation of learning. It's carefully monitored to see if each particular activity is likely to achieve its learning goals. The next is short-term assessment. It can occur on a daily or weekly basis. The next is diagnostic assessment. It tries to diagnose or locate areas of need. Next, achievement assessment. It's different from the previous one. This test held at the end of the course. The learners are assessed on what they have learned from the course. The last one is proficiency assessment. It's based on items drawn from the language as a whole rather than from the content of a particular course. So let us now look at each of these 6 kinds of assessment in more detail. The first is placement assessment. It's used to decide what level of the course a learner should enter, what class the learner should join, and whether the learner should join the course at all or maybe in a partial conditions. Has to be done just before a course begins. The time available for assessment may be limited. Placement assessment needs to be familiar, friendly and relaxed, reasonably brief and easy to mark and interpret. Focus on gathering the most relevant information. Placement tests focus on knowledge of language item rather than skill in language use. As we can see the difference between language item and language use. Language item, for example, include pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar tests, while in language use, for example, include interview, role play, listening tests with message-focused questions, or reading passage with message-focused question, or maybe in composition writing. The example here is Eurocenter's vocabulary test, vocabulary level test or VLT, structure interview, and a cloze test. The second one is observation of learning. Monitoring learning progress in a course can occur at the level of the learning activity. This monitoring does not assess the learners but is directed towards the task that they do. To see, it is necessary to make change to the learning activities in order to encourage learning. There are 4 questions that should be asked when observing learning activities. What is the learning goals? What are the learning conditions? What are the observable signs? What are the design features of the activity that set up the learning condition or that need to be changed to set up the learning conditions. So what this means that observation of learning needs to be well planned and designed. It needs a clear indication of the observable things to look for and how to record those observations. Here the example of observation of learning. The first is spoken fluency development activity. So it observes the involvement in communicating with a partner, a reasonably high speed of speaking with a small number of hesitations, and some sign of comprehension by the listener. Learner diaries or logbooks, and learner talking in a small group to provide feedback. The next is short-term achievement assessment. Short-term achievement assessment look at the product of activities or a small set of activities different from the previous one. Observation look at the process. In short-term achievement assessment, look at the product to see if the learners are making progress on a daily or weekly basis or not. It can also have motivational purpose to make learners do required work and to give them feelings of achievement through success on the test. It's also happened for us, for example, when we got a good score, we feel more motivated. And short-term achievement is more easily assessed if there are clear performance objectives for some of the learning goals. A performance objective is a statement consisting of 5 parts, stated by Brown 1995. So the part is the subject, the performance, the conditions, the measure, and the criteria. Here the example of performance objective. So for example, the learner should be able to quickly read and comprehend a 550 words text containing only well-known vocabulary and constructions at a speed greater than 250 words per minute and with at least 70% comprehension as measured by 10 4-item multiple choice question. The learner should not refer back to the text while they answer the questions. So as you can see here, the learners is the subject. And what is the performance? The performance is indicated by the yellow underline to quickly read and comprehend a blah 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 blah. And what is the conditions? In this case, there are 2 conditions containing only well-known blah blah blah, and in the last paragraph it also stated the condition not refer back to the text blah 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 blah. And how the performance will be tested or the measure will be 10 4-item multiple choice questions. This is the measure. And the last is the criteria. The criteria here is stated as speed greater than 250 words per minute. And short-term achievement tests, curriculum designer should write performance objective for some of the goals of the course, particularly where there may be misunderstanding of what is to be learned and where focused repeated practice is needed to reach the goals. Good short-term achievement assessment should provide a clear record of progress that is easily interpreted. The next test, called diagnostic assessment, is help to find the gaps and weaknesses in learner's knowledge so that something can be done about them. To find what learner know well so that the time is not wasted and teaching process. Important part of need analysis both before a course begin and during the course. And the finding of diagnostic assessment are used to determine what goes into a course. So good diagnostic assessment is accurate and easy to interpret in terms of what should be done as a result. There are some example of diagnostic tests, VLT, to help a teacher decide whether learners should be focused on high frequency vocabulary, or maybe in academic vocabulary, or maybe in low frequency vocabulary. The other example, as you can see here, is written compositions, reading tasks, or maybe in learner's self-assessment. The next test called achievement assessment, here used to measure both the achievement of learners during a course and the effectiveness of the course. The test part of the way through a course may have the purpose of picking up learners who are not achieving, so that something can be done to help them learn. May also assess material that will not be assessed at the end of the course, thus allowing a greater spirit of assessment of the material covered in the course. Achievement tests have the following characteristic. They are based on material taught in the course. Learners usually know what kind of question will be asked. They are criteria, and achievement tests may be called as a mastery test. Why? Because that if something is to be learned, it should be learned well. Every learner is capable of achieving mastery. Teachers' responsibility is to the students and to learning, and thus every learner should have the chance to learn well. And the mastery of an area is rewarding and motivating for both teacher and learners. So here we can see the correlation between achievement and mastery. High achievement scores generally indicate that a level of mastery of grade level material has been reached. And the last test called proficiency assessment. A test of language proficiency draws item for the test not from the course that the learners are studying, but from the language itself. So you can see the difference between proficiency and achievement tests before our previous discussions. Well, proficiency test is coming from language itself. Achievement test is coming from the course. The purpose of this test is to show how much the learner know of the language or a particular part of the language. The common example of proficiency test is TOEFL and IELTS. This test can have a profound Westback effect on a language course that precedes the sitting of the test. I want to underline the word Westback effect. What is Westback effect? So the test here can have positive and negative effect, or it can be called Westback. The positive Westback refers to expected test effect. For example, a test may encourage students to study more or may promote a connection between standard and instruction, while in negative Westback refer to the unexpected harmful consequences of a test. For example, instructions may focus too heavily on a test preparation at the expense of the activities. So there are several responses to the constraint of the test at the end of the course. The first response is make the course like the test. It's usually for commercial business. And make part of the course like the test. There is partial, and then remove at all the tests. So some educational institutions have its own proficiency tests. The value of proficiency tests is that they are one source of evaluation data for a program. So we are going to the different discussions, how to make a good assessment, how to make a good test. The first one is reliability, the second is validity, and the last one is practicality. All assessment needs to be checked to see that it's doing its job properly and that is not causing unnecessary work. Most investigative procedures, including the tools for needs analysis, Course evaluations and tests and other measures for assessment can be examined by considering three criteria: reliability, validity, and practicality. So what is reliability? A reliability test gives results that are not greatly upset by condition that the test is not intended to measure. The test is more reliable is always given under the same conditions, consistently marked, has a large number of points of assessment, and its question and instruction are clear and not ambiguous. While in validity, a valid test measures what is supposed to measure. Valid achievement tests measure what has been learned on the course. Practical ways to check the validity of a test are look at its face validity and content validity. What is the difference? While in face validity, we are looking at the surface level. In content validity, we analyze the test based on some criteria or in deeper level of analyzing the test. And the last one is practicality. Practicality is examined by looking at the cost, the time taken to administer, the time taken to mark the test, and the number of people needed to administer and mark the test. The ease in interpreting and applying the result of a test. So in other words, practicality in assessment means that the test is easy to design, easy to administer, and easy to score. As the summary, there are 3 steps to design a test. The first one is decide what kind of assessment, and then write the test. And the most important part of the design is to check the reliability, validity, and the practicality. So assessment is a major source of information for the evaluation of a course, and thus its gradual improvement. Curriculum design should include the planning of a well-thought-out program of assessment of various kinds. Some teachers are often take the test from the internet, Googling, or student workbook, so they are only focused on practicality. The test should not be like that. It should be in a well-designed. We have to pay attention to reliability, validity, and practicality. Okay, that's all of my presentations. Thank you for your attention. See you